Hey guys, it's Helen Hartsmith here with a podcast that's a little bit different than how we normally do things here at Heart of the Witch's Path. Kathy isn't with me today. I have another guest, and so normally I would have the guest introduce themselves, but since it's who it is, I'm going to do it. So, with me today is the Roomie. Why don't you say hi, Roomie?
Hi, Roomie. Hi, gang.
So, I've talked about the Roomie before in various videos and blog posts and such. And so, because of the subject matter, I wanted this podcast to be just the two of us, because it's basically us talking about our journey and just kind of sharing some things with you about our journey. How does that sound?
Let's specify what the journey is.
Yeah, why don't you specify what the journey is?
We wanted to talk about our path and journey into first becoming cruelty-free with our products that we use, and then becoming a vegetarian. So we thought we're coming up on, I think we figured out that it was about the 2.5 year mark or so, for both of those. So we thought that it might be a good topic to just kind of discuss and share what our experiences were, and yeah, thought we'd share it with you and introduce me to the podcast world.
Yeah, so it's really easy for me to remember when I went vegetarian, because it was just before the holidays, or it's like right in that November, December time, because I don't remember if it was just before Thanksgiving or if it was between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I think for you it was just before Thanksgiving, because I remember it was like the winter of 2015, because that's when your aunt has her annual cookie party, and I arrived late, and I was starving, and I had been on the fence of what I wanted to do, if I wanted to try to become a vegetarian, or how strict a vegetarian, where I wanted to go. I was still learning a lot of things, and I remember getting there, I was starving, and I was very stressed, and somebody had usually brought like chicken sandwiches or something like that.
Yeah, one of my cousins, that's what her thing is.
She brings the chicken sandwiches or whatever, and I was like, I got a plate of just like real food, and I scarfed the sandwich, and then I felt immediately guilty because I had just eaten the chicken sandwich, and I was trying to not eat meat, So I had a little panic then. I was like, okay, well, let's see what we can do from going forward from now.
Right. So that was just before Thanksgiving then, and then we went cruelty-free probably about 6 months before that, right?
Yeah, we've done cruelty-free before.
Right. And I want to say, okay, in most things, I'm the great instigator.
As most things go in this house, yes.
I remember being pretty, up until, that mid-2015 time, I never really thought about products being tested on animals and things like that. And I thought that, I live in America, and as an American, there can't be companies anymore that continue to test on animals. I mean, this is the 21st century, for goodness sake. That can't possibly be happening. And I remember coming across a video from a YouTuber that I had followed, and her journey was pretty interesting just in general, because she was a beauty guru, and she's gone through some like changes in like how she approaches things and stuff like that. And she did this video on cruelty-free and her deciding, because her and her husband were vegan, I believe. And so she decided that she was doing the cruelty-free thing, and she did this whole video talking about companies that were cruelty-free and ones that weren't. And I remember watching that video, and I was horrified to realize that there, because in the 2 years before that, because of you, this was your instigation, was getting on YouTube and following all the beauty gurus.
Yeah.
And so that's how, so I'd gotten kind of more into makeup and stuff like that. And so to see this video with some of them products that from companies that I really liked, I was like, there's no way that I can continue to ethically do this.
Yeah, I felt kind of that same way when I really got to thinking about things and looking at things. The difficult thing for me was not so much the beauty products. The hard thing for me was I was very brand loyal to so many cleaning products and skincare and bath products, and
right.
The part that I had a hard time with was, what do I do instead of,
Yeah.
And I really had a hard time with that. And then I was just like, how can this, kind of your same thoughts is, how is it still happening at this time, this day and age, and especially in the U.S., it was just very difficult for me. So I remember, going to a health food store and just, anybody that would listen to me, I'd be like, I'm transitioning to cruelty-free. Because I was looking for...
And I need help.
What is your favorite face wash, insert product? I was looking for lots of suggestions from people that were already, in my mind, probably already using those types of products. So it was tough for me for a while there.
Yeah, so we started off with cosmetics. Right? And I think we might have done a little bit of HBC products in the beginning.
Yeah, that kind of was those go hand in hand for me.
Yeah.
And I was already using, I had already found Tarte, and so I'd already, Tarte was a good one for me, and Urban Decay. So those were my two big favorites, and Lorac, those for eyeshadows and things like that. Those were my makeup favorites.
Yeah, so we started the cruelty-free bandwagon with cosmetics and health and beauty products, so face lotions and washes and stuff. And then we eventually branched from once we transitioned, and that was the first ring to get past.
The first leg.
And then we branched out and we started looking at, because we sat down and we had a discussion about, okay, what are we going to do? Because then we transitioned into all of our household products, so all of our cleaners and detergents and things like that, we went cruelty-free there as well. So I think that both of us, we the big thing was, one thing that I think that we have to suggest to anybody who's thinking about going cruelty-free, the thing you have to do is you have to educate yourself.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing. And then the second thing that you have to do is you have to set your own boundaries.
Yeah. Because
what are you okay with?
Right.
Because you talked about Tarte and you talked about Urban Decay. And a strict PETA follower will give you a list of companies that are okay, that are cruelty free, blah blah blah. But then you've got your gray areas that, for instance, Urban Decay is a cruelty free company, but they're owned by, isn't it L'Oreal?
I think they're L'Oreal by now at this point.
Right, and I think that's happened in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They're bought by a parent company like L'Oreal that is not cruelty free.
Right. Oh, and I just bought some mineral veil from Bare Minerals the other day, and they are cruelty free, but they are owned by Shiseido. Is that how you?
Yeah, Shiseido.
They are not cruelty free. So it becomes a personal preference. What is your line?
Yeah, where do you draw your line?
Where do you draw your line, and what is okay for you ethically? And so I just research the company, and if the company is and guidelines that make sense to me and are sounding like they are really cruelty, doing the right thing and moving in the right direction, then I'm okay with that. I understand the financial part of it, that they're owned by somebody else, and we can't control everything. So
right. Yeah, so I mean, so those and granted, there are some really good companies out there that are on like the PETA approved list.
Right.
But then again, there's companies too that like Urban Decay. I really like Urban Decay products, and I want to say, hasn't Tarte been bought by somebody? They
might have, but. Yeah.
I don't remember for sure. I think there might have been talk about it or something like that. Yeah. These are great companies that have great products, and if they retain their cruelty-free status, then for us that was enough.
Right.
So that you've definitely got to do that for yourself. You have to draw your line in the sand where you're going to make your stand at.
Right. Yeah.
So we set those guidelines for ourselves, and then I think an interesting thing that happened for us is that we started commonizing some products in the house. Because of course, like cleaning products like your toilet bowl cleaner and stuff like that, you only buy like one set of that. But before, we each bought our own detergent and fabric softener. That's just kind of how we were.
Yeah, we always kind of had separate, because I was brand loyal and I always liked something particular, and you didn't have that. You didn't have that necessity.
Right.
So.
Right. But since going cruelty free, we've actually found some products that work well for us.
Right.
And we're able to, kind of pool that into kind of like a household item rather than a separate item.
Right. And I just realized by doing that, we're cutting down on the amount of plastic we have in our house.
Right.
Yay!
Yeah, so that reminds me, I didn't even think about that. When did we start recycling? Was that before vegetarian?
No, I think that was after vegetarian, because I don't know how we got that one much more.
Well,
became much more prominent.
I think that whole during the time when I went cruelty free, I think that was like starting my conscientious consumerism.
Yeah.
Like thinking about where am I spending my money.
Right.
And things like that, and really looking at, as a pagan, as a witch, I feel that it's important for me to have that respect and that reverence for Mother Earth, and to treat her accordingly.
Right.
And so the town that we've talked about this before in other videos and stuff like that, our town that we live in does not have a recycling program. Correct.
We don't have, a lot of towns have like garbage and recycling in with their taxes and what have you. We don't. We have to purchase our own. Each individual home gets their own garbage, and then there is unfortunately no recycling centers in our specific town. But the company that we actually use for our garbage is out of town, and they have recycling. So that's the center that we go to, but it's out of town. So.
And when we started recycling, one of my coven sisters, she lives in the town that they have basically a curbside pickup.
I think that's how this all started.
Yeah, I think
once again you started it.
I'm the instigator. I recognize this. Damn me and my conscientious thoughts. So Cornflower Wolf, we would save our recycling items, and I would take them to her whenever we had coven meetups, and she agreed that she would put them in with her curbside things.
That's right. Now I remember that.
Right, but then we started more and more.
We really decided that we were going to get into the recycling, and then we really discovered how much we were using.
Right.
We had a lot, so
we set up a little area in our home, and so that we could separate, because when we took to Cornflower Wolf, we just put everything in a bag and just took it all to her.
Right.
But we started separating because there's like this big drop-off center where you pull in and you drive around in this like loop, and there's big gondolas that you can drop off the different things. So that was in there too,
Right.
in and amongst all of that. And then I decided to do the vegetarian after watching Cowspiracy.
Right.
And I think and Blackfish was another documentary that like really fueled my this whole there's some things that are happening out there that are just not cool.
Yeah, kind of for me it was just the disgust that and the reminder of how terrible humans are to people or to other creatures in the earth, you know. So that one was a tough one for me.
Yeah.
It was really tough for me.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really got me thinking, you know, Blackfish got me thinking about I will never go to a SeaWorld again. We visited one of the big zoos in our state this past summer, and I don't like zoos, and I don't like circuses with animals. I mean,
circuses are really, that's always been bad for me. I always remember feeling bad about the animals in the circus. The zoo, I go back and forth on the zoo, because I just go back and forth on the zoo. That's a whole another conversation, I think. But
I'm not really sure about
because there is like truly conservation aspects of it, but at the same time, and I don't think they necessarily are harmful or treating them poorly, but they just don't have the space that they need, and it's just I have a hard time with that one, and I haven't fully decided on what I want there because there are some organizations that are really good.
Yeah, I think the thing that like really freaks me out is that, for instance, we went to the giraffe enclosure, and that is the same enclosure since the giraffe exhibit was opened like in the 30s.
Yeah.
And there's no greenery in there. It's a big open space.
Right.
And our last summer was pretty hot.
Yeah.
The last few summers have been kind of hot. And so, giraffes are native to Africa, and so they like those warmer climates, but there's no trees.
Right.
What is there for them to do?
Right.
And I think before I would agree to go to a zoo again, I would want to try to educate myself on where do they source their animals, what kind of enrichment do they have, and different things like that.
Yeah, definitely another more researching needs to be done for that one, but yeah, I have a hard time with that one for sure.
So, what do you remember thinking when I first said, I think I'm going to go cruelty-free? Because I never have an expectation that you should do something just because I am.
I don't remember anything specific. I think it was just the more I thought about it, like it seems like I remember we discussed it a little bit and what the benefits and drawbacks were of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember anything specific. Probably mostly, holy crap, what am I going to clean my house with, and what kind of stuff can I buy? Because I was very uneducated. I didn't, like I said, I just was so brand loyal, I didn't even think about it. Mm-hmm. I was just like, okay, this is the exact same laundry soap I've bought for like 10 years running.
Right.
You know, so
and I'm not going to be able to use it anymore if I do this.
Right. So yeah, that was kind of really the biggest thing for me, was just like, okay, how is this going to impact my life? But the more I thought about it, of course I was realizing that it was the right thing because it just needed to happen, you know. It's like we all need to be much more aware of where we're spending our money. Where we're spending our money, where we're sourcing things from, what we're putting back into the earth, what we're putting in our bodies, because some of that stuff is just plain gross, you know?
Right.
So when you really look at some things, it was very eye-opening the more research I had done. Mm-hmm. So, but nothing specific. Like, I don't remember, like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Like a bazinga. A bazinga?
Bazinga?
Anyway.
So, do you remember what went through your head when I told you that I was going vegetarian?
Yeah, nothing specific, but was mostly like, what do you mean? I like bacon. I really like bacon.
This is, yeah. I don't remember like you having a major reaction when I talked about going cruelty free, but I remember when I told you that I wanted to go vegetarian. I remember your eyes getting huge and you were like, what? And she was like, how is this gonna work? How are we gonna cook? How are we gonna buy groceries? How are we gonna do this? You were like super close to a meltdown.
That one was pretty close. So what probably a lot of people don't know is that Helen and I, we basically, I mean, yes, we're roommates, but we've been friends for so long, we've lived together for so long that we really are commingling. I mean, with our groceries and everything. So we buy meals to make meals together. Things like that. So we, like, one of us goes grocery shopping, but we're buying meals for all of us, for both of us.
Right.
So it's like, it's silly to try to think about making 2 meals of something.
Right. I remember you saying, we're going to have to make 2 meals.
I did. I do remember that. I was like, and then I was just like, that's absurd. And then I was I do remember being very hesitant, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can just try looking at like a Whole Foods without completely understanding what the difference of things were. I'm like, maybe I can just look at Whole Foods and still eat chicken, and that would be like, okay. Right. And then the more I got to looking at things, I'm like, no, that's still not gonna do it. And then I don't remember the name of the movie because it scarred me. I watched a movie that was done and then it was on YouTube, and I don't remember the name of it. But
yeah, because for me it was Cowspiracy.
Right, and so...
But I don't think you watched that with me.
I don't think I watched Cowspiracy.
I think your mom did.
She may have. So I watched this movie, and it was just... It was disturbing, and it was really hard for me to watch. And I remember crying. And then I remember saying, okay, this is not right. Because I realize now at the things that they were showing are probably on the extreme spectrum of the terrible things that humans are doing to animals in mass production for food, but it's being done, and it was that one was really hard for me, and so from there I was pretty okay with moving away from meat. And then I still to this day, I'm just going to say this, I hear so many people when I tell them I'm vegetarian, they'll be like, no, I can't, I like bacon. And so the funny thing is that I've discovered that you can flavor seitan basically to taste just like bacon.
And the texture's like
Texture's
there.
The same, and it's maybe a little bit better for you. I don't know, because bacon's truly just fat. So
right, and sodium.
And sodium.
And let's not talk about the carcinogens from smoking it.
Right. So, but that one took me a while to be fully on board, but and there's times that are tough, but
oh yeah,
especially during the holidays, because there's things like surprisingly ham rolls.
Oh my god, that got me. That got me this year at Yule because it was sitting right in front of me, and I'm like, they all have like a handy toothpick in them.
That's one that
I don't often get cravings for meat, and it's really weird when I do. Yeah.
The thing that I think is really kind of neat is that we've discovered an alternative for just about everything that that we've liked. And
there's a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of, vegetarian companies out there that are putting out products that are your fake chicken, your fake pulled pork, your fake chicken nuggets. So I feel like, at least in terms of when we eat at home, we're not missing out on things.
Right. And by no means, we never really talked about this, I don't think, but by no means are we we definitely eat processed food. By no means for vegetarian, are we saying we're not eating any processed food. We definitely try to cut it down, but we're obviously eating processed food, and I'm okay with that because it's more plant-based, and that's again one of those things that I'm okay with. That was the line in the sand for me.
Right. Yeah.
We live in Michigan. There's no way that I shouldn't say there's no way. It would be very difficult and something I'm not interested in trying to figure out at this point of how to have a whole foods diet.
Yeah,
Based all year round.
I think that we try to eat whole foods as much as possible, but especially right now for us. With your school schedule and stuff like that, sometimes you have to have times where you have fast meals, and fast meals, unfortunately, a lot of times
are processed. Right. And so that's the decision we've made, and that works for us. Right. It may not work for everybody, but that works for us.
Right. So like, was that documentary that you saw, was that more on the slaughterhouse aspect of the industry, and is that what influenced you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I watched Cowspiracy, and mine was an environmental thing.
Gotcha.
Because I like meat.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah.
I grew up meat, vegetable.
Right.
Kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah, me too, yeah.
I like meat, but I made the choice that I wasn't going to add to the burden that the agricultural livestock industry puts onto the planet.
Right. Since we've gone vegetarian, I've watched most of Cowspiracy. I don't think I watched the entire thing. And so then because for me, initially I should say, it was the cruelty to the animals. I just lost the word that I was thinking of. Anyway, and then I was realizing the environmental aspects of it. After talking with Helen more about the Cowspiracy movie and things like that, it's like, oh, this is actually putting a big more strain on the environment than vehicles and things like that. So that was very surprising for me. And so for me, it's now when people ask me why I'm vegetarian, the order usually is because of my health, because I don't need the cholesterol of animal proteins in my system, the environmental, and then the just the kind of the animal efficacy. Is that the right word? Anyway, so,
ethical treatment of animals.
Yeah, there we go. So those are the kind of the rundown for me. Is it really is a threefold. It's not just one particular spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I feel like we should state too that the intention on this journey was to be vegetarian and eventually transition into vegan.
Yeah.
And I think I have more issues with that I think you're doing much better with the transitioning to vegan than I am. Before we even went vegetarian, we had switched to almond milk.
Right.
So we weren't drinking. Yeah, we weren't drinking cow milk for a long time.
Right.
And we've since found, like a soy-based butter product and stuff like that. But it's the cheese. The cheese and the egg. That is that's gonna kill me. Yeah. Because, friends, we tried vegan cheese, and that shit is nasty.
I would like to try. We did try a little bit. I would like to try some different brands, and I've done a little bit more research of stuff, but I just don't. It's a bit of an investment to try buying stuff and then finding out
if you don't like it. It's a really tough pill to swallow to buy like a $5 package of shredded cheese that you can't stand.
Right. And then it's not like you can like hide it and make it in mac and cheese or something, because it's just like, it's so
and you can't take it back.
And you can't take it back.
And none of our friends are vegan or vegetarian, so it's not like we could like say, hey.
Pawn it off on anybody.
Yeah.
No.
So that's been the tough.
That's been a tough one. You're definitely having a hard time with the cheese. I've found some videos about, I haven't tried it yet, but making like cashew cheese, basically. Like a cashew-based cheese.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of cookbooks, and I found some stuff on social media that I want to experiment with, kind of a thing. So for me, there's substitutes out there for cheese. And I keep going back and forth on eggs because I'm not sure what to do without eggs. So
yeah. So what? Okay, so I want to ask this question separately. So, what was the hardest adjustment when going cruelty free? Like, what was?
Really just finding the products that I liked, and being aware of that there are other products, and that was the big thing. And I also had it in my head for a little while that I had to make my own cleaning stuff all the time. And I did make my own deodorant for a while, but we never really got into making our own cleaning stuff. And then honestly, the hardest part for me was once we started using a lot of cruelty-free products, they just don't clean the same because they don't have the same chemical they don't have the same amount of crap as some of the other stuff does. So it was just weird. It was getting used to cleaning differently. So,
yes.
But
is there like, I would have to agree that like the educational process was what was hard. I mean, you had to do your research,
right.
And you had to find out what brands were were good and what ones weren't. Is there a product that you miss? Is there a product that was like the hardest thing? Because you've talked about like detergent
toilet bowl cleaner. It's just different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that we used before is like I stuck it in there, I let it sit for a little bit, and my toilet was sparkly clean, and now I gotta scrub a little bit harder and and do it more often and things like that. Not to be gross. Sorry, guys.
No. I think the hardest product to replace for me was my face moisturizer.
Oh,
that was like one thing that there was another point that I wanted to come back to too. There were so many products because I've never been super brand loyal, but I have skin that's quasi sensitive. And so when it came to like a detergent and a face moisturizer and things like that, I have to be really careful because I will freak out.
Right.
And I don't know the whys of it.
Right.
So my face moisturizer was one that I had used for years.
Yeah.
And I had to find something else.
Right. Oddly, the face cleanser and products and things and brand, I didn't find anything I loved with that. So I kind of bounced around with some different things before I went cruelty free. So to find something out to move over to cruelty free products wasn't that difficult for me for that. And my skin thankfully is not nearly as sensitive. So I was able to, I think I've played around with a couple of maybe 2-3 different brands, and I found I'm really enjoying Andalou. So I kind of keep coming back to that. So
I think another thing that's been kind of difficult too for us, we don't live in a small town by any means. We have a Meijer, we have a Walmart, we have a couple of other big box grocery stores and things like that. And luckily we have one little store that they've started to carry more products, because I think it started off as pretty much like a vitamin store.
I think so.
And but they sell like some tinctures, and they sell some homeopathic drugs and things like that, and they have some pretty decent tea selections, and recently they've started carrying more HBC type products.
Yeah.
But other than them, those big box stores, when it comes to carrying cruelty-free brands, when it comes to like shampoo and stuff like that, they're miserable. There's hardly, first of all, they hardly carry anything.
Right. They are getting a little bit better, but
marginally. Like Meijer does have like a natural section, and stuff like that. But I think that there's still a big lapse in styling products.
Yeah.
Because we can find a shampoo and conditioner. That's not too bad. But it's styling products that I'm having a harder time finding.
And I think in general, when you go natural, when you think of a natural product, I think a lot of times people just assume that people living choosing to live that lifestyle, for lack of a better word, just don't, they, they're kind of a crazy hippie and let their hair do whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
yeah.
So there might, that might, like, that's what makes sense in my head, is why there's not a ton of styling products.
Yeah, the tree-hugging hippie type.
Right, because we're all tree-hugging
stereotypical.
Exactly. Your hair is just...
But my hair is short and fine,
right.
and doesn't do much, so I need some styling products.
Right, yeah.
There's another thing that I thought of, too, that I wanted to bring up and let people know, that another one of those kind of lines in the sand that you need to draw for yourself is if you make a decision to go cruelty-free, you need to make a choice as to whether or not you're going to go through your house and clean out products from companies that aren't cruelty-free.
Right. Yeah.
And the choice that we made for ourselves is that, okay, we've already spent the money for these products, so we're going to finish using them, because it's not like you can take back the dollars that you spent.
Right. Yeah.
So we're just going to use them up and recycle the packaging, but we're not going to repurchase.
Right. Can I go somewhere we hadn't talked about at all? And I just had a thought that I think that maybe the women might find helpful.
Yes.
Menstrual cups. Sorry guys if this is kind of gross, and sorry anybody if it's not necessarily the funnest.
Hey, we're having an adult conversation here.
Adult conversation. I won't go into too many details, but it's definitely something to look into. Because
she's talking about a Diva cup.
A Diva cup. There's lots of different brands out there right now, and there's actually, I think if you're interested in doing it and using one, now is the time to do it, because there's a lot of products out there, and there's a lot of different products and a lot of different brands, and so Diva cup is not the only one. But it's definitely do your research and check out whatever other kinds are out there. I used one for a while and I liked it. It was good knowing that I wasn't, not to be gross, not putting terrible things into the landfill. So but definitely look into it, and it's definitely that's a journey in itself. So yes. I'll just leave it there without going too much.
No, that's cool, because I didn't think about that. So what was the hardest adjustment for going vegetarian?
At first was bacon. I didn't think I would be able to go without bacon, because I had it set in my head. It was one of my, and also finding a good alternative for a burger, a hamburger, because
you're a burger fan.
My comfort food, like a lot of people, their comfort food is like, I want pizza. I'm not like that. I want a burger. So to find a good burger alternative was, actually that went over really well, and thankfully I'm pretty forgiving with a lot of things. It doesn't have to be a specific anything,
We've tried a lot of the meat substitute products.
Yeah, we have.
That's actually a whole other podcast that we could do. If you're interested in something like that, then let us know.
Yeah.
And we can talk about, because there's a lot of stuff out there now, and we've tried
a good
most of it.
Yeah. Now currently the hard part for me is the cheese and the eggs.
That's what I'm struggling with.
And I think I have an easier time with cheese. Letting go of cheese.
Like the cheese.
I like cheese. I just don't need it. I'm okay without it, kind of a thing. And because then I keep going back to just some different videos that I've watched and some things that I've read, and so that then like the animal part of the terrible things that happen to the animal comes to my head for that one. But for eggs, chickens make eggs naturally. That's what they do. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm having a harder time being like, no, I can't have eggs, but they make eggs. You're not pumping them with some. They get pumped in mass agricultural. They get pumped with chemicals to produce bigger, but they make eggs no matter what. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and another hard thing for me about transitioning to vegan is honey.
Honey, that's huge for me, because I love the honeybees. They are so important to our everything.
Ecosystem.
We have no honeybees, we have no life. because they pollinate everything. We're like, so yeah, honeybees are good, are a big one for me, and I try to make, in the past year or so, I've been very aware of where I and we are purchasing a honey from, and making sure that it's as best as regionally.
And I think that we look for regional, local,
right,
because it's good for allergies, right, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a hard thing for me.
I didn't even think about that one. Yeah, but so I mean, based off of that, I could never go vegan because I like honey too much. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. And that's part of my. Not only do I like the taste of it, but I use it for medicinal.
Right.
So that's right, part of that, my whole system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely. So, was it harder to go cruelty-free, or was it harder to go vegetarian?
Vegetarian. Just because that was changing my entire everything I'd known eating wise. I like food. So, I had to evaluate everything that I liked before and decide where I was at with that. Can I have that, or do I need to find an alternative for something, or do I just cut it out completely, kind of a thing. So vegetarian was more difficult for me.
I don't know, for me, which one was harder. I think because these were my instigations, I think that I was just like, okay, I kind of lump it all together in this whole being a conscientious consumer. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm still working on myself as a conscientious consumer. Absolutely. And so these are just choices that I'm making to make my life better, to help make life on this planet better.
Right.
And I think a big thing for me, for vegetarian, there was this whole movement about meatless Mondays and stuff like that. And part of my thing for going vegetarian was that maybe if I went full on vegetarian, it would make up for some people who can't even do a meatless Monday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of thing. And so, it's not a hardship for me to give up meat.
Right. Yeah.
So...
something that I just thought of and has been interesting to me through this whole process is there's a lot of we have at my work, they give out, or they send out a monthly newsletter, and there's a recipe usually at the end of it. And I would have to say probably, I didn't count, but majority of the recipes from this past year are plant-based. There's no meat in them. Mm-hmm. And I find that very interesting, and I like that a lot, because it's becoming much more, and they don't say, here's your vegetarian recipe of the month, it's just like, hey, here's chickpeas, maybe something a lot of people haven't had before, right, do something with chickpeas and make this thing, mm-hmm, and it's like, oh, hey, whether people do it or not, it's cool, but I think that's a good point.
It's a nice little subtle throw out.
Right. And I think a lot of people are becoming much more aware of choosing a more plant-based diet versus animal-based. So, mm-hmm, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So the last thing that I thought that we could talk about is, without getting too heated or whatever, what are your perceptions on the reactions of family and friends for what we've chosen?
That one was interesting. Again, most people's first question is why, and usually they say, I like bacon too much. So I'm very familiar with those comments. It was my first holiday. There was some reactions that I was not anticipating. That was a rough year anyway. Just personally, I was having some rough time, and I guess that was really last year that I was full on vegetarian at a big family gathering, and so that was a tough one from a family member. But knowing that person, I wasn't overly surprised by it. And I think I joke that I've become the tree hugging left or liberal, you know what I mean? I joke about that with myself, and so I'm sure that there's whispers amongst coworkers and family members and things like that. So and I've become, my thick skin has just gotten a little bit thicker with things like that, and I'm okay with it. So it's my choice, and I try to be open. I have a coworker that's been very open with me, and we've been talking a lot about a lot of things, and so when she talks about the animal products that she's a hunter, her family are hunters, so she talks about things. I was like, okay, I try to understand where she's coming from, and I'm okay with that, and just like she tries to understand where I'm coming from and is okay with that kind of thing. So I try to be open-minded.
Do you think that was like one thing that I should have thought of too to talk about? Do you think that, like, if we were hunters, would you eat game? I
don't know. I've never liked venison. I've had it a few times. I've never ever liked venison. I understand, especially Michigan. Remember, people were in Michigan, so it's kind of a necessity. So I've been told for hunting. I don't know.
I think that hunting is important because I think you have to control numbers.
Right. So so most people don't know about me is that I was born on the West Coast, and so hunting is like, that's the last thing you talk about. That's just like, that's the biggest taboo ever, So even coming to Michigan and talking about hunting and understanding hunting has been difficult for me. I don't know. I don't know. I've thought about that. I've even thought about if somebody said, came to knock on the door and said, okay, I have this venison. My family will not eat this. We have too much. Will you take this? I don't know if I would do that. I don't know.
I don't know what it would do to us.
Right, because we haven't had any kind of an animal product in it. But it's also not like, venison is much more lean product. So I think that would be probably okay kind of a thing as far as like eating it kind of a thing system wise. But I don't know. I've thought about it. I haven't come to a conclusion. I will leave it at that.
Yeah.
Have you?
I would be open to eat. I've never had an issue with venison.
Right.
I've grown up with hunters in my family, not necessarily like huge hunters or anything like that, but my brother has hunted and stuff like that. So I'm okay with that because I understand the conservation end of things. I understand that, fishing and hunting, done with, conservation in mind to make sure that there's enough in the ecosystem to support, that's important. And not only deer and things like that, but I mean, you have to support the entire ecosystem, including the predators and things like that. You have to coexist.
Right.
Everything is interconnected.
Right.
So I wouldn't have an issue, with if we were to hunt or fish or whatever. It's not something that I can't sit in the woods and be quiet for hours.
You can't sit in the car for 5 minutes and be quiet.
Right. So
it's not something I'm interested in doing. I've never been interested in hunting. Yeah. I've never been interested in fishing. At least not, aside from the novice part or the novice part of it. It's just like spending time with my family and my friends.
Right.
For hunting, I've never ever been at all interested in hunting.
Yeah.
Just sitting still for that long is just
yeah. And then kind of coming back to the family and friends thing, I think that for me, there have been a couple of people that have been not necessarily negative about things, but they've definitely made their comments.
Oh, yes. And a lot of your I have the benefit, my sister is she's so funny because I told her I was vegetarian and thinking about going vegan, and the first thing that she said is, okay, I have no idea what to cook for you then. You know what I mean?
How do I feed you?
How do I feed you? Because we're Italian, that's what we do. We eat, So I'm thankful that my sister understood that, and she's actively looking for recipes that kind of will help out. And sometimes you have family members that will bring things that are not helpful at all to a family function, and leave you very limited on what you can have, and
right.
and that's that's frustrating.
I think that that's probably one thing that I've been like the most enlightened by is that, you know, there should be something there. Like, not every dish needs to have meat in it.
Right. Right.
And
isn't that strange how that's how Americans, because I think that's a very American thing, that's how we eat, you know, a meat has to be in everything. Or sometimes some kind of animal product has to be in everything. And it's just like, no, it doesn't, you know, it's the way you think about it and the way you see it. It's just like, okay, this is okay.
Yeah.
Can I don't know, you might want to, I don't know if you can edit this out or not later, but I had my family function this weekend for Christmas Yule, and as well as Helen. And so the difference is, not that mine was better or worse or anything than yours, but there was definitely things that I could eat at mine where there was a very limited at yours, and it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
I think we need
and the fact of the fact that I've been vegetarian for 2 years now, and there was still very limited things, you know. Besides
what you brought,
right?
Yeah. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
We need to figure out a way to bring this back up to the cheery Sparta. I think
well,
we went downhill.
I think that. Well, no. I mean, these are just all things that we've experienced, and if somebody, the whole purpose of wanting to do this is to kind of open, like, for us to have a discussion about our experiences, so that, you know, if someone else is interested in cruelty-free or vegetarian, you know, what have we experienced?
Yeah.
So what can you look forward to, or be aware of, or whatever? So yeah, I think that we can pretty much wrap it up.
Yeah. And by the way, if there's anybody that decides to go that path, we would always love to hear your story, whether it be positive or negative, or share it, because I think that there's like, I think general populace picks on people that are vegan and vegetarians because it's like that's all that they talk about, but it's kind of a weird path sometimes, and you kind of feel a little bit isolated, especially when you're in a smaller community like we are. We don't have like a vegetarian restaurant nearby at all, you know?
Right.
So we have to figure out.
Oh yeah, dining out, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. So anyway, I like hearing people's stories anyway.
Yeah, so leave a comment below. If you liked this podcast or learned something from it, please give it a thumbs up so that we knew that you liked it. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. We love to have you back and checking out the other offerings that we've got going on here. Like we talked about, give a comment down below, or you can always email me at heartofthewitchespath@yahoo.com. And don't forget to check out the Instagram account, because I try to have fun over there, posting some fun pics and such. So that's going to be it for this podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I know I just realized that we didn't do a correspondence, but I guess I didn't do that with the Roomie because
it's the Roomie.
It's the Roomie, and she's a muggle. So thanks for walking the path for a little while with us, and until next time, blessed be.
Blessed be.